of
Mines, Minerals, and Energy.
mines, minerals, and energy. That same person is also the person who is tasked to develop wind energy. That same, I mean, the title of the job tells you that department deals with anything having to do with energy of any kind in Virginia, no
Coal
matter
mines.
what. So I don't understand what the concern is over having that person at the table.
Okay.
Would it make sense for that person to be at the table?
They're at the table. All right. Delegate Sproul?
Mr. Chairman, I understand what we're trying to do, but I would love to hear from somebody else, you know, a citizen who out there want to speak. I would really want to hear from them.
We're going to hear from them as long as it doesn't, I mean, as long as it doesn't deal with your
I understand, but I'm saying,
Yes, ma'am. Quickly.
Research and development utilized for intellectual property. We have folks that can do research, but maybe not the marketing piece, or may not have the research lab or some of the academic assets and experts. And I'm excited. I would think it'd be a great opportunity for the Commonwealth to continue to move forward and assure folks that we're the nation's leader in power in Virginia. He goes right on into...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a copy of the bill here, and I'm trying to understand both sides, and I'm trying what both sides are saying, but I want some specifics about the bill that's before us now.
I understand.
You're talking about other things, which I understand now.
No, I think that
I
this
want to
is...
help you.
I
But I want to
understand,
know
sir.
what's before me, and you're talking.
From North Carolina. I've been involved for many years in waste issues, so one of the issues that we feel about this consortium is because it is broadly written and generally written, and because, sir, as you were talking about, we have a very serious waste problem in America of where to put nuclear and spent fuel waste, that because this consortium bill is so broad and so general, and because it gives authority to its members without having them being subject to conflicts of interest and the Freedom of Information Act, we have no reason to believe, as you said, trust no one, that this consortium could not be used for the cradle-to-grave aspects of nuclear energy. And the best way you could convince us, the public, that this consortium will be spent on issues that will be productive to our society would be to, in fact, write it in the bill.
But ma'am, as I said earlier, if I rule that germane, that means on the floor, an amendment can be put on the House floor. And let me remind you, on the House floor, that would allow uranium mining.
I would say let's take a gamble and see what happens, because I understand that, but I live right at the Virginia border. I consider Virginia my
I don't
state.
think you want to take that chance. All right.
I may not understand politics, but one thing I do understand is what the gentleman here said, and that is that you can trust no one. And so at this point, we have no reason to believe that the consortium would work, in fact, in the best interest of citizens.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out that, you know, if you look at the nuclear industry across the world, it is a dying industry, and it seems sort of ludicrous for a state to build up to be the global leader in something that's a dying industry. All across the world, they're shutting down plants. They can't contain it. It's an industry that is dying. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Coalition for Open Government, and depending on how you feel about nuclear energy or uranium mine, I'm either for it or against it. So my comments have to do with something very specific in the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm greatly concerned with the bill's language, which is on page 3, lines 149 through 154, which makes the consortium exempt from the Freedom of Information Act, the Government Data Collection and Dissemination Practices Act, the Public Procurement Act, the Conflicts of Interest Act, and several other general administration of government laws. I couldn't agree more with Delegate Hugo's comments earlier about, you don't want people to know, don't want anyone to know about anything, and that's how I feel about this. This is an entity that will be advising a public body. The authority will be subject to FOIA, and as such, it should be subject to the Freedom of Information as well. This is not to say that the consortium should not be able to take advantage of existing FOIA exemptions or perhaps create other FOIA exemptions that would apply to just that consortium, ones that are narrowly tailored to their interests. But it is a dangerous public policy across government, no matter what type of authority or commission or entity is being proposed, to create an entity that will be advising a public body and will not itself be subject to any kind of accountability rules. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, anybody else?
Person of the Occaneechi-Saponi Indian Tribe of Virginia. I do have the same concerns regarding the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, and requires, and I understand what you're saying regarding that, but they're trade-offs. There's the issue anytime you're hiding things behind closed doors or things behind closed doors, there's always the issue of corruption. So I think we have to balance the two. However, the biggest problem that I do have with the S Bill 1138 is that we see it as a move towards regulation or getting the regulations written on uranium mining. We've got pretty hard evidence that 85 to 95% of the population of Virginia is opposed to.
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with uranium mining, okay? I'm going to rule that out of order.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. So let me jump down to the bottom. Again, I do have the issue with FOIA issues. Also, our opinion is that we should be 100% focused on sustainability as opposed to nuclear energy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Ginger Stanley on behalf of the Freedom of Information, on behalf of Virginia Press Association. We've had a great opportunity both here in your committee and in the Senate to argue our stance that this should have more sunshine, and that's all I want to say is sunshine is a great disinfectant and would calm a lot of people in this room.
Thank you. Favorite order, any questions say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the motion for you is to report to all the members wishing to vote on electronic voting board. Clerk will close the roll. Senate Bill 1138 report 17-2. Thank you, Senator McWaters, for your input on your bill.
Thank you very much.
All right.
My name is Deborah Ferruccio. I'm from North Carolina, and my response to Senate Bill 1138 is that it is creating a nuclear energy consortium authority that is given way too much power. The powers are vague. The protection of the members and their activities is not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. It's not subject to a host of other mechanisms that are supposed to be protecting the public interest, like conflict of interest and the liability for the members. So we have no reason to believe that this consortium that will be operating in the dark will not do things that we don't want, which would include facilitating uranium mining through regulations and or helping to get rid of nuclear and radioactive waste by using Virginia as a dumping ground.
How does it affect the people of North Carolina?
If this consortium were to, in fact, write the regulations for uranium mining, which was proposed as a possibility at their last committee hearing, and were to help uranium mining to go forward, it would have devastating impacts on North Carolina. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources in North Carolina has said that these impacts would be devastating and would cause adverse harm to the state, including to hundreds of thousands of people who draw water from Carr Lake and Gaston Lakes, affecting agriculture. They said that it would cost up to, or at least $15 million per year just in lost tourism. So the minute they lift the ban, or the minute they begin to write regulations in order to lift the ban, that adverse effect will begin in North Carolina, because people will not want to buy property in North Carolina, vacation in North Carolina. They'll begin to think of North Carolina and Virginia as the place that you do not want to go on vacation.
I'm Erica Gray, and I'm with the Nuclear Free Virginia Richmond chapter, and I'm reporting from the General Assembly building in Richmond, Virginia. The final meeting on Senate Bill 1138 passed 17-2 after quite a bit of arguing from opponents, including myself. over this bill because it's vague and has no specifics, and it's left it open for the nuclear industry to pretty much have their will and do what they'd like to do. So unfortunately, it's a bad day, but we will continue on because the next stop will be Governor McDonald, and he'll either sign it or he'll leave it there for 30 days. So it's time for us, I guess, to switch gears, and we will now go after Governor McDonald.